Hello everyone, this is Wit and Sensitivity, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about languages and how languages shape identities and when is it possible to shape a new identity through language. I've been thinking about this since I've been traveling a lot, and also I've come across the need to switch the main language which I use for communication and for studying and creating. And as a result of that, I've been asking myself, who am I and what determines what I am? Being able to speak many languages can sometimes be confusing and can sometimes make you feel lost and make you ask yourself such questions more often. And sometimes people choose to change a language and change to a new country and a new environment for the sake of changing themselves, for the sake of building something new, which is not related narrowly to their past. But my question is it possible to do that? Is it possible just by going to a different country, trying to suppress the past that has already defined you? And when is that possible? When is it possible to really have a full sense of developed and creative self, which is not determined by your past and is built on the basis of a different language than the one you originally come from? There are many artists and creators that move to a different country, start creating in a different language, and start building a life in a different language, and they succeed. They feel perfectly fine. Not only do they feel fine, but they feel better by relating to a different language than the one they originally come from. But it is often the case also that when you run away from your origins without fully understanding them and comprehending where you come from, it can also be difficult to fully move on in a new language. And I guess this has to do with what I often come back to, that language is not the essence of identity. It is not the essence of your being. It is just the outer layer of something that is deeper inside of you. It's just what relates you to other human beings and to society, but it's not you. I found a really nice quote by Gilles Deleuze which explains this in a better way than I do. And I will read it in original language, and I will add the subtitles so you can keep up with the translation. Nous devons être bilingues, même en une seule langue. Nous devons avoir une langue mineure à l'intérieur de notre langue. Nous devons faire de notre propre langue un usage mineur. Le multilinguisme n'est pas seulement la possession de plusieurs systèmes dont chacun serait homogène en lui-même. C'est d'abord la ligne de fluide ou de variation qui affecte chaque système en l'empêchant d'être homogène. Proust dit: les beaux livres sont écrits dans une sorte de langue étrangère. Sur chaque mot, chacun de nous met son son ou du moins son image qui est souvent un contreson. Mais dans le beau livre, tous les contresons containent sont beaux. So the first sentences of this quote already describe what I'm trying to say. It basically says that you are supposed to have a second language that you're born with. Like, let's say you're born with one language, you grow up with one mother tongue, like most people. Apart from that, you have to have an extra language. Everyone should also have an extra language. That's the interior language, that's the human language. It's what connects all of us, no matter where we come from and how we grow up. It's the language of your internal world, and it's what makes you unique. And as we see in this quote, there is also a second quote inside the quote by Proust, who says that the good books are written in a language that is quasi foreign. It sounds almost as a foreign language because it is written in one language that we can define as a separate language identity, such as French or English or Spanish. And besides that, the writer has been in this creative state in which they have kind of dissociated from their own personal ego and past, so they can really use this language in a creative way. So every word has a unique meaning which comes from the author themselves. And yeah, I find this really, really beautiful. And regarding the question that I asked in the beginning, whether it is possible for us to change our identity by learning a new language, I do believe that it doesn't come from the language itself only. Of course, if you move to a different country, you surround yourself by a different cultural perception and by different people. Yes, of course, that you will change over time. But all those things that come from your past and come from your original language may, in a way, help you see that new language in a more unique way, give a new point of view to that language, or also limit you so you are not fully able to open yourself in that new identity that you're trying to form. It really depends on how well you're connected to yourself and to your past. And I personally believe that it's not 100% related to the surroundings. It also has to do with what you've been through, with how you've perceived the world until now, and whether you're also willing to change your perception of the world or only the outer layers of how you speak. Because if you only change the language you speak and you don't work on your inner world, then if you're trying to create a new identity, that will not work because you need to change your personality if you really want to change your surroundings, no matter which language they are dressed up in. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and it's just something that I'm very passionate about, and I can keep on talking and talking and talking about this. Just the last thought, this reminded me of a novel by Milan Kundera, who also has a similar story to the one I described. He is born in Czechoslovakia, but he moves to France and he begins to create in French, even though his most famous works, like Joke and L'insostenibile leggerezza dell'essere, if I'm not mistaken, was the title in Italian. In English, it was probably I don't remember how it was in English. Yeah, so his most famous works are written in Czech, but when he moves to France, he starts creating in French. And he also, I believe from what I have read from critics, that he has wanted to identify himself with the French culture and the French philosophers and the French way of thinking. So he begins writing in French, and his French works, some critics say, are not as good, but one of them in particular is actually called L'identité, identity, which talks about how our identity is formed often by how others perceive us, and how it is very difficult to get to that point where your identity is only formed by what you think and feel about yourself. It's about this woman who starts feeling old and starts feeling that men are not so interested in her anymore. And she shares this to her partner, who begins writing her letters in which he makes us feel good about herself and her appearance. And she doesn't know that those letters are written by her partner, and she doesn't tell him about the letters, and it basically follows her story of how she perceives her world through basically how other people perceive her. So this is also related to what I asked, how languages and the environment can shape our identity. But in the end, if we are not willing to really look inside to our origins, our past, and what we want to become, our desires, which really come from our essence, no matter their surroundings, then it's really hard to change the essence of yourself and your life as well, just by changing the language. Yeah. So that's all for today. I hope it was interesting for you, and